As if we needed more examples of Charlie Kirk being completely uninterested in having any kind of truth or moral coherence to his politics, we have him debating college students once again. And I never watch these videos in full. They're usually quite boring because the students usually just have one kind of talking point, and Charlie will say some BS that they've never heard before, and the conversation's over. But this guy actually does pretty well. He's talking about the first impeachment trial. It's a great example of Trump being a complete, immoral, unconstitutional, unpresidential person. And Charlie Kirk just has no answer to it. And this guy could have even went even further, right? Which I'll explain after he makes his argument.
Fine. Why don't you, as quickly as you can, I know you said you're nervous, it's fine.
Yeah.
State your case of what you think, why you think Trump's 2019 phone call was a disqualifier.
Yeah, so I think not just the phone call, but the events surrounding the phone call, that he suspended congressionally approved aid explicitly in an attempt to coerce a foreign government to investigate a political opponent and the DNC servers. I thought that was contemptible. I also thought that the cover-up afterwards was really
right. And I should add, all that's beyond dispute, right? You have so many people, like the people who he hid through executive privilege, like John Bolton, who revealed in his own biography that it was a quid pro quo. You have Kurt Volker, you have Gordon Sondland, you have Mick Mulvaney, you have the text of Trump's phone call, you have Giuliani's conversations. There's so much evidence here. This is so clear. Like, Biden's name was mentioned many, many times explicitly. All of those people I just listed said the whole administration knew that this was the case. It was a political motive meant to help Trump in his next re-election, right? There is no reason for him to hold up this aid, right? Zelensky was doing a great job fighting corruption, so the corruption excuse does not work here. They were even instituting a high court for anti-corruption at the moment that the aid was frozen, right? So it doesn't make much sense there. But besides that, we'll get into the actual aid freezing part and Charlie's weird response.
bad. And then I thought the refusal to comply with House Judiciary Committee subpoenas was really condemnable.
Yes, and he did use executive privilege to essentially stop, like, the Office of Management and Budget, the White House, right? A whole list of people in his administration, including Mick Mulvaney, I think, and Department of Defense. You know, whatever Congress needed to make an accurate decision, he used executive privilege to try and obstruct that. Because he said this was a witch hunt and unconstitutional, which everyone agrees is absurd. Of course it's not. This is like Nixon kind of stuff, right? Watergate kind of corruption, where you're saying that the government's main mechanism for self-accountability, which in impeachment, is absurd. And you're saying that kind of abstractly without evidence.
I think all of those things reflect bad on our democracy.
Okay, well, we're not a democracy, we're a republic, but it's fine.
It reflects
yes.
poorly on our constitutional republic.
That's the reason you didn't vote for Trump? I mean, like, that's...
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, was he...
one of the
was
reasons,
he convicted of the impeachment?
No.
So he was acquitted?
Yeah. I mean, the Government Accountability Office found that what he did was illegal, right?
I like how, Charlie understand that impeachment is a political process. It's not a criminal court, right? Politics is inherently part of impeachment. So there is no criminal conviction like he's saying it. This is a political process, so people are going to vote along party lines. They're not supposed to morally, but that's what the process of impeachment has been throughout the history of the country, right? And he's saying, why does it matter? He wasn't even convicted in the Senate impeachment trial, and it's like, well, what do you want? Like, does it have to be so bad that it converts all these Republicans against him? Does it have to be that bad? And that would smear the party name of the Republicans for a long time if they had a president who's impeached, right? So it's in their best interest to not vote for that unless it's really, really bad.
Raising funds.
Again, presidents freeze funds all the time. Well, under that statute, when Joe Biden was vice president, he was on camera.
Also, the ICA, Impoundment Control Act, that the Government Accountability Office found Trump in violation of in that specific instance, they also found the same violation in this term, his second term, when he obstructed EV infrastructure funds in the beginning. So that's another way he could kind of add on to his argument. But let's hear this Biden thing.
Saying that we're going to freeze Ukrainian funds unless you approve a very specific energy project that Hunter Biden was on the board of.
Okay, I'm gonna.
All right, that's every single word he said was just wrong. All right, so we're going to freeze Ukrainian funds. So he's referring to the loan guarantee that was in 2014. This was not. These weren't funds like they were in 2019. These were loan guarantees. So Congress had already authorized them to be used by USAID and the executive branch. So the funds were already where they were supposed to be, right? They had to back up the loan guarantee. These were funds that had yet to be transferred to Ukraine for the purposes of spending it on U.S. military equipment. This is very, very different. How the money flows here is very different. The Impoundment Control Act does not apply because the hands were already in the executive branch by the time Joe Biden was using that as a quid pro quo. Now, Joe Biden's quid pro quo was infinitely better than Trump's. Why? Because he had actual backup for his quid pro quo, right? There was the prosecutor, Victor Shokin. We had multiple sources say he was a prime reason for corruption in Ukraine. I will name a few: Ron Johnson and Mark Kirk, who all signed on to that letter, sending it to Ukraine that they should reform their Office of Prosecutor General. This is the same year that Transparency International singled out Victor Shokin as someone who should be removed for prosecution for corruption. Right, 100 members of Ukraine's parliament said he was too corrupt to serve office. We know from the testimony of Devin Archer, right, that Zelensky, all these names are hard, that Victor Shokin was under the thumb of Zlochevsky, who is the owner of Burisma, right, and that he was actually good for them because he wasn't investigating them. That's why he was so unpopular. That's why there were riots against him in Ukraine, right? So there's so much evidence, there's so much context he's leaving out of this, why Biden's situation was so much different. And it's because he doesn't care about the evidence, right? We wonder why all these people in Trump's first term now despise him. It's because they were close enough to him to get screwed by him, right? See what an evil man he was. And Charlie's just too distant from Trump to truly get screwed over in that way. We see with his recent reaction to the Epstein files and how he was called to essentially change his opinion on it or talk about it less, that he is absolutely in the sphere of influence of Trump. He just hasn't been screwed by him yet. And that's because of his kind of what his particular job is. He's not really doing anything in the administration. So let's continue.
Just respectfully, I don't mean this in a rude way, but I don't want to really get into a whataboutism. What you're saying about Joe Biden.
It's the standard of whether we hold leaders accountable.
No, you're completely right. You're completely right. And
why does it? I mean, this kid should know that it's completely different things. Like a loan guarantee and funds are two different things.